Since its release in June, House of the Dragon Season 2 has had mixed reception for a myriad of reasons. Regardless of your opinion on the season, it's veritable that it's a divergent from the first. The first season, I think, is veritably more balanced, walking a line between, action and exposition, whereas the second season is veritably just slow in nearly everything that it does. It focuses on, character development, character building, and setting up the pieces on the board now the war is declared. So, understandably and arguably, it is a weaker season. So the most common critiques and complaints that I've seen about the show are that, one, the biggest one is like, end of season 1, about to go to war. End of season 2, still about to go to war. And so following some other things, it's slow pacing, the lack of action, character changes from the first season, Daemon spending near all season tripping, short episode length, etc., etc., etc. And also divergence from the source material. I'm just going to preface very quickly my opinion real quick. I have mixed feelings about the season. Do I think it could have been better? Yes. Do I think it was the worst? No. I definitely have seen worse. But it's not the best, it's not the worst. It's just simply that. It's a kind of a meh season. It does have its good points. It does have its good moments, but I'd say in comparison to the first season, there's less things that I love about the season than things I don't quite get. So season 2 continues after the events of the first season. Following King Viserys' death, the succession has become the inevitable source of conflict in this story. Coming full force with Alicent and Otto, installing Aegon as heir. Otto in his selfishness, and then Alicent in her misguided righteousness.
You desire not to be free, but to make a window in the wall of your prison. Have you never imagined yourself on the Iron Throne?
On its opposite end, Rhaenyra, Viserys' named heir, declares war on the Greens after the death of her son Lucerys, and for usurping her rightful claim to the throne. So this season is about amassing the bodies to fight this war. The inner politics, the build-up of the players in this game, and introducing more characters into this world and story. And Rhaenyra is reluctant to go to war, in spite of her declaring war, but at the same time, it makes sense because she as much as she wants revenge, she wants to avoid bloodshed, and also bearing in mind with the prophecy that Viserys told her and all the prior Targaryen heirs and rulers is, about the incoming impending night. That mankind must stand united if they are to survive. And so with this in mind, you see this kind of tug of war in Rhaenyra's mind as she's like, what the fuck, what do I do? And everyone around her in her council is telling her, you need to fight. You need to go to war. Everyone except, Rhaenys. But this also includes people like Daemon, who is, Rhaenyra's partner. And Daemon and Rhaenyra, who were paired together in the first season to strengthen the claim of House Targaryen, are put at a divide in this season, where we see Daemon undermine Rhaenyra's word a myriad of times because you see him kind of working through Rhaenyra, his wants and his drives when it comes to the throne. And this puts the relationship of the two to a veritable strain as they spend almost all season kind of away from each other.
Είναι άρλη κρυντρουχάς. Σε παρμορχούλιας.
Νουκικός τον ταούρ. Silutan. My queen.
And so, to kind of conclude, the sides of both Greens and the Blacks undergo a lot of changes and developments. For better, for worse, new characters are introduced and solidified, and losses and sacrifices are made for both in the impending war to come. So in regards to the pacing, nobody can argue, it is a much slower season than the last. I will say, I don't personally hate when a show embarks on the more slower route, because usually this means this is when the most build-up occurs and makes the action mean even more. If anyone watches anime, I think very kind of apropos examples would be Attack on Titan season 3, or the political arc, or Vinland Saga season 2, the farmland arc. These 2 seasons were complained and scrutinized a lot for its slowness, and yet I think it served a purpose. And for me, I'm personally not someone in my disposition. I don't mind the lack of action. Because I know and I believe that the seasons 3 and 4 will be just action, not just bloodshed. But at the same time, my critique and my gripe is not the lack of action, but just I really do think they could have utilized its time better. I don't mind Daemon tripping and hallucinating in a castle for an entire season. What I do mind is if I think it went somewhere. I'm torn. It went somewhere as much as it didn't. I think it held points of importance that made his arc significant. The only scene I truly think about is his scene with Viserys after Viserys was mourning. After what is his name? Rhaenyra's mom and the baby were they passed away and Viserys was grieving. That I think was an integral moment in Daemon's character arc.
It crushes whoever wears it. You always wanted it, Daemon. Do you want it still?
Yet there was no need for them to be making out with their fucking mom. There was no fucking need for that. That was stupid. He had his prophecy and shit that he finds on the finale, but it's yes, there's important things that happen in his trip to Harrenhal, but there's just a lot of nothing as well. And it doesn't have to be filled with action, but just his character development. Okay, he needed to be here to get to this point, to develop as a person, as the character. It just could have been done so much better, and that's my thing. And that's kind of my thing with this season in particular. It's I don't really mind where the characters end up. It's more so how they ended up there. Now, the characters in this season, most of this is kind of going to be repetitive, but what I kind of feel as a whole with these characters is they're not bad. With a lot of them, I don't quite mind where they end up. It's just more so in how they got there. And some of it I don't get. For Rhaenyra, for example. Rhaenyra, I think, had a better arc than Daemon, for example. Because while she is stagnant and trapped in her castle, we do delve into her frame of mind more. And she's portrayed to be evidently frustrated, the fact that she can't do fucking nothing. But also, it does kind of make sense why she can't do anything, because she's the heir, she's the queen. And we all know that, and this has been shown in the first season as well, that, when you're the ruler, or so-and-so, you can't really do fucking shit. And so, while the basis of their arcs is different, I do think Rhaenyra does kind of... It's not that she experiences more, but she does do more than Daemon does. Daemon experiences more, Rhaenyra does more, in a sense. I don't know. It's kind of true, kind of not. It's yeah, I don't know. I don't even know how I feel about that phrase either. So Allison is interesting. Like, she's not a villain in my eyes, I will say, but she's a really bad fucking mom. Helena is evidently the one that she cares about the most. The rest of them, like, she gives no fucks about. But her arc in the season gives me mixed feelings because the setup for her in the first season is expanded in this season, obviously, but in a way that's debatably cohesive. Like, the first half of the season follows her character setup from the last. But say, for instance, like, we kind of see this kind of, like, not degradation, but she slowly starts to become a shell of who she once was. Allison in the first season was much more fervent, and I don't quite mind this character change, but it's like, basically, Allison in this entire season is just like realizing how much she fucked up, and just like that repeating over and over and over and over and over again up until the finale. And then she just like, then she's just like, yeah, you can kill my son. Like, huh. I think I will say I did love the scene where she's undermined at the table at the council, you know, when she was saying like how she should rule, you know, in the stead, because like she did that for Viserys when, you know, he was like ill, and she's just undermined by the men at the table, and it's just like, I saw some reels way back when where it's just like, when you support the role that doesn't like support women, and then you're surprised that like they don't support you. It was something akin to that, but it was just like irony. Oh, Allison. It makes sense for her to be like in this space of like, I fucked up. But for her to go to be like, you can have my son. You can kill my son. You can do whatever the fuck ever. It doesn't quite make sense, I'll say. And there's not enough in the season for it to make sense. There's not enough shown for it to make sense. I think like the dragon seeds were an interesting addition. I don't particularly have a thought on them. I think they're an interesting concept. And I will say I do know what happens in the books. And so I will not spoil the books, but it will be interesting to see how these characters play out. I think Criston is like, he's an intriguing character. Criston I fucking hated in this season as usual, but his scene in, I think it was the last episode where he's talking to Gwaine or Dwayne, whatever the fuck it is, I think was a very needed scene for Criston. Criston has always been like the memes, the fucking butthurt twat, and yet we see something else besides that, where it's like, after the battle at Rook's Rest, he is this like husk, and he realizes how insignificant his life and all their lives are when dragons are involved.
You saw what I saw. The dragons dance, and men are like dust under their feet. And all our fine thoughts, all our endeavors are as nothing. We march now toward our annihilation. To die will be a kind of relief. Don't you think?
I was really surprised with how much I liked Aegon. Like, Aegon, he's still a fucking piece of shit. He provides a lot of humor and comic relief.
The rat catchers!
Oh, I had them hanged.
I'm interested to see how his character, I mean, I know, but like, to see his character change throughout the season and, you know, forthcoming, I think it'll be interesting to watch and develop. I have to say, I didn't quite like what they did with Rhaena. Now, I understand that the show removed a character from the source material called Nettles, And so we all know Rhaena is the only Targaryen without a dragon. And so this has been built up between the 2 seasons, and yet her at the end just straight up fucking abandoning Rhaenyra's kids to chase this fucking dragon. Like, I get it as much as it's like, what the fuck? So, once again, it's a flawed season. Not the best, certainly not the worst. What gives me hope and optimism is the confirmation of a set amount of seasons. And I think that's the dichotomy between Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, is that House of the Dragon has a complete story chronicling its events. Game of Thrones has only to a certain mark, and still that hasn't changed to this very day. But the hope is that with a set amount of seasons and source material to work from, albeit changes have been made and are being made, deviating from its material, that maybe it won't live up to the caliber that Game of Thrones has, could have had, but that it'll still be a decent all-around story. This would give me hope, even still. Albeit, mayhaps it's infantile. But was this not the case? I don't know. But that is all for today. Love or hate it, life goes on. Take care, y'all.